Mike the Baptist, the program that seeks to educate you. Fails miserably sometimes, but once in a while we come through with a tidbit, and that's what we're after today is a tidbit. Welcome back to Neil Andrews across the table from me.
Hey.
Good to see you, Neil.
Good evening.
Good to see you, H.D. Jones.
Good to see you, Michael.
Good to see you. You'll notice I didn't crack any jokes. I just
appreciate
said your
that.
name.
I appreciate that.
It's my new, it's the new me to use pronouns,
Gotcha.
which is just your name. That's the pronoun I'm going to use. Might drop Brother Hodo in once in a while, but
There you go.
and Koontz. Good to see you back, Koontz.
Good to see me too.
We're back for another rip-roaring session of Christian frivolity. I just made that up, but you know it's okay. It's look if you're a Christian person and you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, you are.
Because when you're a Christian person, you're freed up to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm all about it. I'm going to do it. Hope you join me.
Right?
I know the guys here at the table with me are as equally frivolous as I am. And that's part of the intent of this program is to get the frivolity out of you guys. Maybe that's the word of the day, frivolity, because that's like 3 times right there that it has shown up. And sometimes I just use words like that to feel like I'm smarter than I actually am.
Then when you go back and look it up, and you're like, oh, that's not even a word.
Well, no, I actually kind of know what that one means. I've
Okay.
used it before. So
Okay.
I'm
Will you
comfortable
define
with
it for us?
I'm comfortable with it. I'm kind of like a poster child for it.
Oh,
so you know what I'm saying?
frivolity.
Yeah, if you're having a fundraiser for your frivolity club, you feel free to use my image.
There you go.
Send us some email. If you have email, comments at mikethebaptist.com. Here's what we're looking for. We're looking for just comment, which is why it's labeled. I don't mean to point this out to you so bluntly, but
Pretty easy.
I'm going to have to, evidently, because we're not getting a lot of email yet. I get a lot of people that I know or have seen this who say something in Kroger or at my church, but they're not sending me email. Let me just point out, if you're trusting anybody at this table to remember what you said long enough to make it back here so we can break it up, you're
Have we gotten
sledding
one
on
from
thin
Denny? Has Denny sent in an email?
Denny has not.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, but Denny, oddly enough, still surfaces once in a
Yeah,
while.
I'm kind of surprised he didn't put one out there.
Yep. Many of you listening or watching will know who Denny is. Many of you won't. But I can't explain to you publicly who Denny is. Send us an email. Comments at mikethebaptist.com, and I'll explain to you who Denny is. And he's kind of semi-famous in this area.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, so where we're going there?
Send us comments
Yes,
or
yeah,
food.
yeah.
Email address.
Or food.
Yes, or food. You know, we keep bringing this up.
Yeah.
We want to try to develop a regular, recurring section of this program where we taste food that people make and send to us. It's kind of like a review.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we get going regularly with that, people will want their food items to be on there. This
And-
has
and
nothing
we-
to do with us just wanting a snack.
We have a number of followers.
We do have, and it's growing.
We have a number of followers.
Yes. And so if you're wanting to impress
I mean,
people.
one is a number, but we have a number
Well,
of
it is a number. Actually, we have 2
Okay.
that I know of because one of them approached me this week and
Okay.
said, there's this listener watcher called Glenda that we speak of once in a while on this program, and she actually made us some cinnamon rolls, which
Yeah.
she's famous for.
Really
It
good.
was a
cinnamon
good day.
And we reviewed those.
Yeah.
And we gave them a really honest, good review. Well, this other lady approached me this week and said, I have an okay from Glenda to make my cinnamon rolls
Oh,
Wait, what?
for you.
We're going to have a competition? It sounds
Well,
like-
no, we're not, because she said, that's what I said.
Yeah.
Okay, got a competition. She said, no.
Hmm.
She said, I don't want to compete with Glenda. I said, well, that's too bad, because it's going to be a competition. It's game on.
Break
And
it to us.
so she said, well, when do you guys do this thing? I said, well, we Saturday mornings at 12:01, but once in a while we get together like on Tuesdays to kind of discuss it, and that's really when we kind of need your product that you're going to make. So I encouraged her. This was 3 days ago. To go ahead and do it because
Don't smell any cinnamon rolls.
well, no, something happened. The breakdown in communication. Something happened there, and by the time she hears this, I will have already corrected that. So it gets confusing. In
Our world.
producing shows and stuff is confusing how that works. But anyway, so by the time you hear this, I want to either say thank you to her for those wonderful cinnamon rolls, or we're still waiting. One of the two. But anyway, so we do have I know at least two listeners, and it is a competition. It'll be friendly, but make no mistake, it's a review, but it's also a competition. So we're looking forward to that. And if you want to provide something for us to review, we'll review it. In fact, if you want to be here when we review it, you're welcome. You can be in our studio audience, and we will. We'll do it right in front of you and God and everybody else. And okay, so today on the front porch, I thought it would be interesting and possibly highly entertaining to talk about funny things that we have seen happen in a church. I mean, it's an incredibly dangerous topic to open up, but I thought there's a possibility it could be interesting. I'll start. I'll break the ice. There's a gentleman at the church I go to whose wife passed away, and he's a great human being. He won't care at all for me telling this because it was just funny. It was really funny. At her funeral, shared wonderful memories of her. She was a great lady, always really involved in that church. And so it was, you hear people talk about celebrations of life. Well, it was a celebration of her life. It was all great. At the end, her husband wanted to say a word or two. So he went to the front of the church there and took the microphone. He's a great human being too. I mean, solid a Christian person as you'll probably ever meet, and highly involved in church. But he's just a great guy. And he took the mic and he began talking, and giving his thanks and all that, and talking about his wife and about, even though she's gone, her presence and all she did around here. And then he said, I'm going to paraphrase it a little because I don't remember the exact words, but he said, and comedy is all about timing. And this was some of the most perfect comedic timing I've ever seen, and it was at a funeral. But he said something to the effect of, I want everybody here to know I'm available. And there was like a 20-second really uncomfortable pause, enough time to kind of look around at each other to say, but then he said, to help you with anything that you might need help with. But the timing was impeccable.
Yeah.
He said, I want you to know I'm available to help you with anything that you want. And so it was so funny. It was so funny, but and I'm pretty sure he wouldn't care for me sharing that with you because it was just such a great moment. Anyway, so there, ice broken.
If he does share, if he does care, he can send his comments to
comments at MikeTheBaptist.com.
Yeah. And I know he emails.
He does have email.
He does have email.
But you know what though? I remember at a deacons meeting years ago that he was also in. A lot of people had Blackberries and stuff at that time. And somebody said something and wanted everybody to remember the date, and everybody started whipping out these Blackberries and all. Well, this gentleman whipped out a little miniature 3-ring spiral notebook, and he was writing it down. So I dubbed that the Dingleberry. Yeah, everybody else had a Blackberry, but he had a Dingleberry.
There you go.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No. So I've been in church my whole life and have seen just some crazy things. Been some funny things. There's been some inappropriate things, but just a couple that came to mind. Our normal pastor, our head pastor, was gone on vacation, and so he invited one of his buddies to come in and preach this Sunday. So this dude gets up, he preaches, and then he offers an invitation, and sure enough, this young man comes down front, and we kind of knew him, and he kind of a little bit of a woolly booger, and he kind of been in and out of church, but he comes down,
Woolly booger.
he comes down front, and
Kind of a woolly booger.
yeah, kind of. He comes down front. It's probably the '70s. I think woolly booger was a
Yeah,
appropriate comment back then.
It was.
So he comes down front during the invitation, and this pastor who knows him not just is shaking his head, bobbing his head, and at the end of the invitation, he says, "Well, could I get everybody to sit down a minute? This young man has something he'd like to say to the congregation." This old boy, I think, was strung out on drugs too, and he takes the microphone, and he goes, "I just want everybody to know you know me, I know you. I've been coming to this church my whole life, and I know what y'all think about God. But I've been out there, and I found some other things. This God you're talking to may not be the only God, and you need to understand that." And we're all just like, it's like nobody knows what to do.
He's already up there.
Nobody knows what to do. He's got the microphone. Nobody knows what to do. This poor little pastor, he's just sitting there. He's bouncing his head, going, "Wait, what? What did he just say?" One guy, I remember this distinctly, picks his wife up and sets her out and goes, "Get the kids out of here now." People are running out the back door. The mama's over here crying, it's her son, and he's embarrassing her. And then one old boy takes his Bible and he stands up and he goes, "You will not talk about these things in the house of God." And he's shaking his Bible at him and stuff. And I just remember my dad finally looked at my mom and goes, "Yeah, get the kids out of here." And we're like, "No, we want to stay and see what happens." So, that's kind of crazy. And then one more, and then I'll let these other guys expound because I know we've got some good stories. A girl I actually went to high school with, she didn't get saved till she was an adult. She was so excited about wanting to be baptized and everything. So, come back on Sunday night. We're going to have a baptism. It's a big celebration. And she actually wanted me to baptize her. And I'm like, "Okay, I can do that for you." And so we get there and go through the service. She's back there getting dressed, getting ready for baptistry and everything. All of a sudden, the power on the whole block is gone. There's no power, and it's dark. It's wintertime, so it's dark outside, and she's crying, upset because she wanted to be baptized. And I looked at some guys, and I'm like, "Hey, we got to make this happen." This old boy goes, "Don't worry, I got this." Next thing I know, the front doors of the church open up. He drives his four-wheel drive up on the porch of the church and hits the high beam. And sure enough, we had enough light. We baptized that girl. So yeah. So you just thought Arkansas was crazy.
Yeah, I was just trying to compare it with
Right?
something. That
Welcome to the Briar.
Greenbrier, Tennessee.
Woo, welcome to the Briar.
The
baby.
Briar. I've never heard it called the Briar. Oh man. Okay, Neil.
Quite a few years ago, I heard this version of the Hallelujah Chorus that Quincy Jones had arranged. He's a very successful producer. If you didn't know that, you probably do, but he's done all sorts of...
With Michael Jackson.
He's been around,
right?
Barbra Streisand,
Yeah.
on and on and on. But it was, it used artists that I know, Take Six, and Patty Austin, and some folks like that. It was great. And it was very gospel sounding. It wasn't the way that Handel wrote it, but you could sing along with it if you did it. It's just the rhythm underneath. It was a little different, but it was really good. So I felt like we should use that, and we worked on it for several weeks. Used it on Easter morning because that is when Handel originally did that, if you don't know.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it wasn't Christmas. I'm not sure why everybody uses the Hallelujah Chorus on Christmas, but it's the story of Christ being resurrected and all of that. So Easter's that's when they did that originally. Anyway, we did it, and the congregation was very enthusiastic about it. And at the end of the service, there was this gentleman who has become one of my favorite congregants, of all time. He was probably in his early 80s or something like that. I saw him coming down the aisle. The service was over. People were packing up their things and going. He came down and he said, "Pastor Neil." I went, "Yes, sir." And he said, "You know that version of the Hallelujah chorus you use?" I don't think he'd mind me telling the sir either, in hindsight anyway. He said, "You know that version of the Hallelujah chorus you use?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "That's the worst thing I've ever heard. I hope I never have to hear that again."
Wow.
And my standard response is, "Well, I appreciate your input."
Yeah.
You know, he walked out, and I had one of the elders in the church tell me they were talking in the men's room apparently after that, and he just kept going on and on about how bad it was. And he said to this fellow that was the elder, he said, "I can't imagine that Hondo would be turning in his grave right now if he heard that." And the elder said to him, "I imagine that if he were alive right now, he would have written it like that." And so this person stopped saying anything. So anyway, 7 years later, I felt compelled to use that version again. But this gentleman was on my mind, and I didn't want to offend him by
Was he
doing
still there?
that. Oh yes, yeah, very active, and he'll let you know what he thinks. Yes. And so I prayed about it, and I still felt like we were supposed to do it. So we practiced it Easter morning. I asked my wife to pray for me, and she said, "Well, I think you need to be praying about that." So anyway, we did it. 7 years later, did it. Congregation was enthusiastic about it, and service is over. And guess who I see walking down the aisle? He's coming down the aisle, and he goes, "Pastor Neil?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "You know that version of the Hallelujah chorus you just did?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "I'd like for you to do that at my funeral."
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
no, me either. Completely did
Golly.
not expect that.
That's a good story.
True.
It was hilarious.
That's not a pastoral story. It's really
Yeah,
happened.
it really did happen.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. But did you?
He hasn't passed away yet.
Oh,
But he did call. He called not long ago to make sure that we were
oh, that you're still
willing
on?
to-
Still got that
Yeah.
list.
I mean, we're not rushing that or anything.
No.
So, do you have a list where people have made requests for their funerals that you keep?
No.
I've got a list. People come to me and are like, "I want you to do this," but I want that.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of people are.
It's stressful
into
too. It's like, I hope I don't
pre-planning,
forget this.
Yeah, there are a lot of people in pre-planning. I've got a lady that requested myself and a couple other folks do an a cappella version of the song they heard us do one time at my acoustic Christmas program for their funeral. But I think that was like 4 years ago. She asked me, and I'm hoping she hangs on till I get around to actually do that. But maybe this is my reminder.
Put that in your dingleberry.
Yeah, I'll put that in the dingleberry. Okay, Coach.
Yes.
Were you through, Neil?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't tell any others.
Okay. Well, okay.
All right. So, one thing, it's happened at two different churches, and happened outside of the church, but on the church's property. So,
Sounds good already. I
you
like
know,
this already.
the first time this happened was at a inner city church in southern Indiana, and that was a massive church, and we're on a big 4-lane road there and stuff, and had our big sign out there that was across the street in one of our extra parking lots. And we come in one Sunday morning, and the sign is gone because the driver literally went through the entire sign. I mean, big metal poles and everything. So the sign is gone. Fast forward, church that I just moved from here, I'd been there just a few months, and now we're out in a very rural setting. I mean, you have to really want to come to our church to find our church. We're so far out in the sticks on a little 2-lane country road. And again, on a Sunday morning, I had some people come in and they're like, "What happened to our sign?" Like, "I don't know. What are you talking about?" "Well, it's gone." So we go out there, and at that church, we had a huge front yard, several acres. It's a nice, beautiful setting out there. But the sign was like an all brick, big old sign out there, and it had landscaping that just kind of sloped up nicely to it. And some person, we don't know who it was, came flying down this country road and did the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
And I mean, they hit that landscaping, went through the sign, and we measured bricks, and where the car landed was over 50 yards away. I mean,
Great.
we saw where it took off and where it landed. So, of course, the license plate was gone from that car, and they'd taken some personal effects out of it and left some in the
Mhm.
property.
Yeah.
Car was stolen. That's the story that we were told, of course. But so it's like, that's interesting. I've got to have that experience twice now
Yeah.
That's
at
interesting.
two different
That's
churches.
crazy.
So what I'm hearing, Michael Kuntz is the executive pastor at my church. What I'm hearing,
We're getting a new sign.
yeah,
That's right. Hey,
yeah,
you want a
we
new
need
one, buddy?
we need to put some barricades up in front of it.
Yeah,
Steel
That's
posts
right.
or something.
Insurance will take care of it for you.
That is really weird.
It is bizarre. But
Did I ever tell you about my buddy from the Hope Center? The Hope Center is a local place here that if you have some, I don't know, issues with drugs or alcohol or something, it's a very Christian-oriented place you can go and pretty well get that taken care of for a while. But anyway, this one fellow, I used to go up there every Monday morning and do a little visit with those guys, and then I was kind of involved in a lot of other things, but I just got to know a lot of them. One of the first guys I ever got to know when I started being involved with him years ago, he had an issue with drinking, and he said that what finally brought him to the Hope Center is that he had been praying God would give him some sort of sign about what to do, and he said he kind of had a little bit of a habit of I think he was a welder, and after work on his way home, he said he had a habit of dropping by the liquor store, getting a little half pint of whiskey or something, and drinking it pretty well on the way home.
Mm.
And he said one afternoon, got off work, and he's on his way home, stopped at the liquor store, and was dealing with it again, asking God to give him a sign. He said when he woke up, his car had driven through a brick church sign, and his car was stopped at the steps of
are you
the
sure
church.
this was Middle Tennessee, not East
It
Tennessee?
could have been the same guy at your church, but anyway, I've always thought that's hilarious. He wanted a sign, and God
Boy,
drove
he-
him through a sign.
Yeah,
He
here
took
you
him
go.
right there to it, didn't he? So did that help him?
Oh,
Along the way?
Yeah,
All right.
great guy. He actually,
Awesome.
I think works. I don't know if he still does or not, but he actually went through all that, and then he wound up helping a lot of other guys behind him. And great
Awesome.
guy, great guy, great sense of humor, and he had this incredibly suave, felt-looking purple dinner jacket that he wore at any kind of function like that. I was just so jealous of that jacket, man. He looked so cool with that jacket. And he slicked his hair back, man. That guy's cool right there.
Like a quartet singer.
Yeah, man, he was a step above that. Oh yeah. Anyway, good front porch visit. I'm sure there are some more of those. We might do this again at some point because I'm sitting here thinking of funny things that have happened. Some of them you can't tell because although they happen at a church, they're you wouldn't expect it at a church, but they're funny. But anyway, another time. Good front porch visit, guys. Going to take a break. Come back. Talk about some stuff we found in the Bible.
I love you, you love me. We're a happy family with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? I love you, you love me. We're best friends like friends should be, with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? Oh my.
We say it all the time, but it's true. Is why we say it all the time. The Bible is a fascinating collection of writings. And a lot of the reason it's so fascinating is the more you, I guess, study it. Is that the word? The more you study it and think about it and get involved in it, the more you realize the things that were being written back in the day they were written just nailed the way people are and had answers for problems. It's exactly the same today. Ever how many thousands of years later that is, It's a book of writings that can help you right now, because humans don't change.
Yep.
The basic way a human being is doesn't change, and I guess God, the things He spit out to these guys when they first wrote it, apply just the same today. You know, the environment may be different, but the people are the same. Anyway, it's a good book and it's helpful. And the preachers here are going to talk about what they've stirred up this week in it.
In the end of the book of Colossians, Paul has taken them through this idea that Christ is preeminent, first place in everything. And then he's kind of talked about things that we should be doing, things that we should not be doing. As my friend, Brother Jackson, he's like, just these lists of do's and don'ts. But he lists those things to help make the church better. And then he gives these two great illustrations because, one of the things that we're trying to portray to people is that the Bible is just a real, it's God's word to help us be real people in a real world. And so he uses these illustrations. One is about a family, talks about how wives are supposed to react with their husbands, how husbands are supposed to take care of their wives, and how parents are supposed to love their kids, and how kids are supposed to respond to parents. But then he goes into work and he talks about, okay, here's how you as an employee are supposed to act as an employee following Christ. And if you are a manager or an owner of a business, this is how you're to act. And so, one of the things I really want to know from you guys is, where have you seen some really good, we got enough bad illustrations, but where have you seen good illustrations of people that you have known who've done things right, maybe in their family or in their work, that would kind of maybe encourage us to, just be authentic with our Christianity?
Well, one thing, a couple guys that really stick out in my personal life are, the two men that my son's named after, and just watching how they lived their life in a way of service. And they really forfeited, I would say, a lot of things that I haven't. They never got married because, and these are two guys that never knew each other, but they decided to stay at home and take care of widowed mothers. And for their entire lives, that's what they did. And just watching them serve, one of them took care of his grandmother and his aunts as well. And to me, they may not have even, one of them didn't even quite understand that they were living out a biblical model for me in that. The other one, he did know that. He was a deacon in one of my churches years ago. And just to see them be a servant and to be so self-sacrificing, that made such an impact on my life. And I still, I'm talking about it today, 48 years old, and it just still amazes me that they would be willing to sacrifice so much just to love on somebody else.
What about you, Neil? What have you seen?
I was thinking about a person that's become a really good friend, and his example, he led myself and my wife through the study that Henry Blackaby did, Experiencing God. And he never made a big deal about it, but he always exhibited just very Christ-like behavior. He never pushed anything. He just lived it. He actually did those things. And I remember being at his home, and he was having one of the rooms refinished, and the person was not doing a very good quality job. It was not good. And after he left, I made a comment about it, and he said, well, I wanted to help him. You look on the back of his van, and he's a Christian, and he said, I want to help him, but he needs to do a really good job on it too, because if you're going to proclaim that you follow Jesus, then you need to do the things you do with excellence. And I saw him do that in everything that he was doing too. So,
there's something to this thing of Christianity is not just about our get out of hell free card, but it's the lifestyle that we lead. And I agree with you guys. To watch somebody live it out in their family when it's not always easy, to live it out in their business, to basically get messed over by some other people, but do the right thing even when it doesn't feel right. I kind of have a different respect for those guys. I'm just real thankful that there are people that are really trying to live out their faith in such a way. And that's what Peter talks about when he says, be ready to give a defense when you're asked. I always love that, when you're asked. So in other words, we should be living our lives in such a way that people notice a difference in us, that people will come up and ask us, what's different about you? The way you treat your family or the way you do business shows me that you're different than just what the world is.
I think you get a lot of opportunities to do that too, because I think anybody that thinks about it for just 60 seconds can come up with times where somebody asks you, why didn't you jump back? What, when they jumped you, why did you not jump back right there? Or when they cheated you a little bit on something, why did you not try to get that back? Or I think that may be the same kind of instances they're talking about, but to be ready to answer why.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of times in church you hear that thing about. I think sometimes we might hear that only as be ready to explain the gospel,
Right.
or be ready to expound on some big theological thing that you might not be comfortable with. But I think it's more just to be ready to say, well, I didn't try to get back at them because that's not the way I'm supposed to act. I'm trying to do things the way the Bible or that God would want me to do them, and I don't find where He wants me to strike back at somebody. Let Him take care of the vengeance.
Yeah.
Vengeance is mine. Did we do that on time on Any or Outie or something?
Sounds good. It's in there, by the way.
Well, thanks for the spoiler.
Yeah.
Well, and what this is wisdom.
Mhm.
Being like Christ likeness, that's wisdom. Wisdom isn't just knowing the right things to do,
which is knowledge.
right? But it's also putting that into action the right way, and that's what Christ did. Some of these guys that we've talked about that have been meaningful in our lives, or people and stuff like that, they had wisdom, and they had that knowledge of what God had told them to do, and then they took it and put it into action. And, that's again, just like everything that we've talked about on a lot of these episodes, this is an ongoing thing for us. We never master it. We're not always going to do it right, but we need to be people that are wise. And, we have areas that we struggle with that. When somebody does come at us with the wrong tone.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, yes,
Not that we would.
Right, yeah, but, when we don't strike back with the same tone or the harsh words that we want to say, we need to do the what would Jesus do thing and put that into action.
Man, I want to buzz that, but I can't.
You can't do that, man.
Put that on a T-shirt or something.
A great idea.
It'll never
I
work.
think a bracelet would be really good. That way, every time I'm
It'll
driving,
never
what would
work.
Jesus do?
It'll never work.
Yeah,
Go down with
that'll
a smiley
be nice. Tell them what you
face.
think.
How would you strive?
How would Jesus drive?
You and the apostles, we drove in one accord, right?
That's exactly right.
We did talk about that one
It's
time.
biblical too.
My mind always goes back in these conversations about being wise and all and how to react to things. My mind always goes back to grandparents. Always goes back to grandparents, because they're always in your family. Seems like in times of crisis or when you really are kind of lost in your way, I find it interesting that people always gravitate back to grandparents in some way. It's like, and we talked about on this last episode about places we went as kids, and a lot of times it was that safe feeling when you're with your family. And in my instance, I was raised by my grandparents, so people came to the grandparents' house. But it's just like there's the calm, wise person that kind of just seemed to always have maybe the right kind of reaction to things. And that's the picture in my mind of somebody being wise. And I see it in, I've been in the particular church I'm in 25 years or so, and I can recall a lot of gentlemen that were older than me, had that same kind of grandfatherly thing about them, where they were calm, they were paced, not real rattled at anything, and not quick to, I guess, maybe judge or react. And that's what always comes to my mind when I'm thinking about how you should act and the way you act and how it affects other people.
Right.
Because us younger bucks can get all excited sometimes and cause even more trouble in situations.
We had a retired gentleman, it's a friend of ours, and some people came to him and they wanted a loan. And so he gave them a loan, kind of did a personal document, just to say, hey, I'm going to give you this money when you get back on your feet, da-da. He said he never heard from them again, even though they were in the community. He knew them. Maybe went to church with them. I can't remember the whole story, but he said he got a piece of paper from a lawyer that basically said, well, these people filed bankruptcy. And he was really hurt by that. And I remember kind of talking to him about it, and I said, what are you going to do about it? He said, I'm not going to do anything about it, because for me to do something about it means I'm going to hurt them and I'm going to hurt my witness. He said, if they can live with it, I can live without it. And I remember just sitting there as a young guy thinking, I'd be going, let some air out of their tires,
Right.
whip their tail, let's do donuts in the backyard or do something, get them back, And he was just he was hurt. He was very hurt. But he said, if they can live with it, I can live without it. And I really think if that group had gone to him and said, we're having trouble even paying this back, he'd have worked with them.
Yeah.
But, just to be kind of cut off and be talked to by an attorney and all that. And I asked him, I said, you go get an attorney? He said, no. He said, that's just good money chasing after bad. There's a lot of wisdom in that stuff.
Yeah. I know when my grandfather passed away, he was a used car dealer all his life. And my grandmother passed away 12 years before that. He wanted me to come out to the house one night and go through all their old paperwork. And he and I sat there one night. He had a wood burning stove. And one after another, we pulled out bills where people had borrowed, or well, not borrowed, but they had set up car payments with him and her over the years that never quite got it all paid off. And there's $30,000 worth of that. We burned it all in his stove right there. But he never looked back. I mean, he's a pretty wise guy. Had a lot of respect, and I think you get more respect, seems like, what I learned from him doing that than chasing people around trying to be mean to them. And
Yeah.
I guarantee you a lot of those people that owed him money, if he knew they needed a $100 bill, he always had some. And he'd have gave them to them. I mean, he would have just gave them to them.
And here's probably the reality too. If they ran into each other in town somewhere,
Yeah.
they probably felt a whole lot more uncomfortable.
Oh, he didn't
than
treat
did,
anybody any different from one to the other. Nobody did.
You watch these people that are truly living like Christ. They're still loving. They're still, like you say, they're still giving. They're still loving and that kind of stuff. And yeah, those people probably felt real uncomfortable because they kept waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, when's he gonna chew me out? When's he gonna cuss me? When's he gonna bring it up?
Yeah, I've been on that side of things before. That's uncomfortable.
When's he gonna bring it up?
That's
And yet he never did, and that shows a lot. And these illustrations are there for us to teach us. Don't go around telling everybody you're a Christian and go home and beat your kids and scream at your wife. And we've got to live it out. And I like those illustrations because they're very personal. Everybody has family. Everybody has a job. I mean, and so we're supposed to do those simple things. We talk all the time about what does it mean to be a Christian and how do we live our life as a Christian. And I think some people think, well, if we're not called to be pastors or nobody, I never think God wanted me to go be a missionary or to work for, a not-for-profit. well, that doesn't mean you can't live your life as a Christian, loving your family, doing what's right at work, and loving other people in that scenario. I think that's what we're called to do.
Mhm.
Well, what I like about all you guys at the table, I know all y'all fairly well so far. Cooch is the newest, but I know you fairly well enough to know that you guys, even though you're in these pastoral ministry positions, you're just guys that are trying to work on your own deal too.
Oh, absolutely.
And we test that out regularly here between in breaks here. I mean, but yeah, I respect that about you guys, and I hope people that listen or watch what we're doing here begin to realize even more that you guys are just like the rest of us,
Mhm.
but you have a little different call on you than the majority of us. In reality, we all have the same
Yep.
call, but you guys have a little more of a pull toward, I guess, teaching and assembling thoughts. And like the last episode, we talked about this Colossian letter. That the deal then was they took that letter and ran around to all the different areas they were gathering and talked about it. And so you guys kind of have been pulled into that role, where the rest of us don't have that pressure. But at the end of the day, we all trying to work on our own thing.
We're all
And-
called to be missionaries, right?
We are, and but I want people to look at you guys and understand that you need friends, just
right.
like I need a friend, and people don't always need to treat you guys like you're something that you can't approach, because y'all are just common sticks.
Yeah, usually in our
So you can approach
profession,
us. You
in
can
our
approach a stick.
profession,
I'm just going to tell you.
you get one of the other. You get the people that don't want to bother you. I don't want to bother you. I don't want to bother you. So they isolate you.
Mhm.
Or you get, I pay your salary, so let me tell you what I think. In other words, you're a punching bag with hair, and I can tell you
Uh-huh.
everything I want to tell you. Your message stunk. You didn't do this right. Why did you do that? And it's kind of crazy sometimes. But
Yeah.
thanks for trying to make us seem more normal.
You're welcome. I'm doing all I can. I'm
Not sure that's
It's a
working, but
huge undertaking.
I know, right? 20,
Actually,
Make us
it's been-
normal.
It's kind of easy. in a way.
28
Oh, thanks.
episodes, 30
This will
episodes.
be this will be 28 or 29.
Yeah,
right
it
here.
hadn't worked yet, so keep at it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll keep chipping away at that.
You were talking about missionaries being missionaries, and we're thinking about Paul doing that and all the things that he did, but that he did them with other people. It wasn't him all by himself. And I was thinking, we're getting ready to take a group of worship team folks to Ireland, and it's funny because if you hear the story about Patrick, but Saint Patrick, he wasn't a saint, but he went through a long. I'm going to try not to get buzzed. He went through a long process of. He was kidnapped by Irish raiding pirates. He was British, and he was kidnapped. His grandfather was I think he was an Anglican pastor. His dad had been trained that way, but he didn't follow in that. He gets kidnapped. He's held in captivity for I don't know how many years, and he has a vision that God's going to show him a way out, and he does. He gets back home, and he trains as a pastor. He studies, and then he feels like he's supposed to go back and engage with the people that held him captive.
It's crazy.
And
This
so,
is St. Patrick.
well, it's Patrick. Yeah, he was.
Yep.
The saint part is
Yep.
attributed to a denomination.
Okay.
But he recorded an autobiography. He wrote notes, and this would have been 425, I think, year-wise. It was 425 when he did that. And there were a couple of points in there that were funny to me, too. When he went back to Ireland, the whole island, it was Druid at the time. It was pagan. And they give him credit with Christianizing Ireland because he went back and did that. But what he did, he's the first one that was credited as doing what they call relational evangelism, which is not going and knocking on the door and going, "Do you know Jesus loves you?" But he moved in with a town of people and became one of them and earned the right to share with them. and it was very successful. But I was thinking about that because he took people with him when he went back. He didn't do it by himself, and it was very Paul-like kind of thing to do. There was another thing that popped into my head too, and it was all those illustrations that we were talking about when we were talking about wisdom and the difference between knowing and doing. They're all people that have some level of advanced maturity, not just in their age typically, but their wisdom is something that brings maturity to the situation, I think. And our culture is at a place where they don't value older folks. They don't have the same value that we used to look at.
That does seem to be true now.
Our elders are not that you would hold someone in high esteem, but that you would at least
Respect them.
consider
Yeah.
and respect them. Yes, at least that. But in biblical times, when scriptures were written, that was something that was held in respect and high esteem, was that age thing too.
You know what's sad in our culture that's so striking to me is if you walk through a mall and you hear the language of young people, regardless if they're standing around older people or not, but especially when they're around older people, the foul language that's coming out of youth is really striking to me. And it tells me that there is something, there is a sickness in society that I don't think they see as a sickness, but it's not going to work out good in the long run. And it's what you're talking about. Yeah. Give me a room full of older people and a room full of younger people and ask me which ones I want to run my life for me. I'm going to go with the older folks and hope they let me be a kid once in a while. But yeah, that's missing. That respect is missing, and it's not a good thing. It's not. I feel like I've hijacked the conversation again.
No, that's good. That's good. That's just a reminder that this journey that we're on is not to be done alone. Paul was not responsible for discipling everybody in every church everywhere he went. Paul was responsible for making disciples, and all of us are responsible for making disciples. But it's that idea that we take people with us. We need, we just had a new members class, and they had a lot of new people that are interested in our church, and that tells me that God says your church needs these people. It's not just a bragging right to go, hey, there's new people here, but God's bringing some new asset. He's bringing some new thoughts, some new energy, some new spiritual gift maybe that we need and need help with. And so we're called to do this thing together. Christianity is not it's not Lone Ranger mentality. You work on you. Yes, you got to work on you. And as a matter of fact, you need to work on you more than you need to work on anybody else. But you need to bring people along with you. And I agree with you, Michael. I like to hang out with older folks and listen to how they've made it. Susan and I have almost been married 33 years, but I like to listen to people that've been married 43 and 53 and 63 and say, how'd you do it? Because they've got sometimes double the amount of experience that I have. And you listen to their wisdom, and it kind of encourages too. You say, well, we can make it. They made it. We can make it. So good stuff.
What was the original question or thing you started out with? Did you start this? I always lose track of who started
I
it.
started it just talking about those illustrations of the do's and the don'ts, but then how do we lead those things out in our life? How do you live with your family, with your work, with wisdom, and then how do you bring other people along with you?
And was there a part about it about how what you do or don't do there affects people around you? Was that part of your original?
Yeah, because you don't want to say, oh, I go to Sunday school every week and I'm a deacon in my church, but I go home and I cuss my family and beat them up. And I mean, there needs to be some transparency with how we just live our life, and that's the best place to start.
For a person who's quote unsaved, who hasn't taken that step yet, why, if they're listening to us right now, why do you think they would still be listening to us?
Because we've piqued their interest, but it's really not us. It's God has piqued their interest, and they're still they hear some things that they want,
Mhm.
and they're not sure how to get them.
Okay, well, I want you right here to tell them how to get them, because that part's kind of easy.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think some people think it's not.
yeah. It is very easy. I mean, basically, the Bible says that we need to believe. We need to believe that Jesus is God's Son. We need to believe that He is the only way to salvation. And I heard something this morning, and I was like, man, I love that. And it's like, you don't need to have a big faith. You just need to have faith in a big God. And there's a lot of truth to that, because I would think, even us just being honest, sometimes we struggle with what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to act, what we're supposed to think. I don't know about y'all, but I still have stinking thinking, you know.
Well, we put that on display
Yeah,
every
well,
time
yeah,
we
we do.
turn on these
We do.
microphones.
And so even though we've been Christians for a while, we don't have it all made, and we don't understand everything. So our faith doesn't have to be big, but our faith has to be in this big God that can help us. And, you know, that's what I would say. I always try to tell people, just wherever you're at in your journey. Some people are like, well, I'm waiting to find out this. Just stop. Just stop. Look up and say, God, I'm a dummy, and I know I've broken your laws. I may not even understand what laws, but I know I've messed up, and I hear about this Jesus, and I want to understand, and I want to believe, and even with whatever I have right now, I believe that you want me to believe. You know, it is as simple as that. It's as simple as, you know, I give it to you. Help me. You know, I think I've heard you say, you know, you got to that place and just like,
Oh, yeah.
help me.
Yeah.
You know, God's not looking for a dissertation
Mhm.
or a research paper or a beautiful theological statement that you can make, because here's the reality. I am looking forward to going to heaven, but I am sure every day I'm going to wake up with learning something new.
Mhm.
I'm not ever going to figure out this God. He is too big for that. So just stop wherever you are with whatever knowledge you have and just surrender it.
Yeah,
And
here's
say,
an interesting note to that. You're never going to figure him out,
no,
but he's got you figured out already.
absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
He's got you figured out.
Yeah.
So, and he's ready for you.
Yeah.
That's right.
So just
Do it. Go through
Surrender.
the drive-through right
just
now.
surrender. Yeah. Just surrender. Absolutely.
And you don't have to let us know. We're not TV preachers, so you don't even have to let us know.
But if you wanted to, you could at comments.
Yeah, it's exciting to know, you know, when that happens with somebody. But did we get where we were going?
Absolutely. Land
All
the
right.
plane.
Landed the plane. Okay, in the interest of time, we all have somewhere we have to be here in a few minutes, which is odd. Saturday morning at 2 a.m., where you got to be. But just trust us.
Parties.
Parties, yeah. The Romeo Club, retired old men eating out. That's what somebody
Oh,
told me
okay.
once. They asked me if I want to be in the Romeo Club, and I said, well, that sounds kind of exotic. And they said, that stands for retired old men eating out. Oh, well, okay.
There you
I'm
go.
already in it, whether I show up or not. We'll be back. In your Outie coming right up.
We have one main goal at Mike the Baptist, and that's to talk about Bible stuff in a way that's easier to understand while getting to know other Christian people in a front porch friendly kind of way. Sometimes churchy talk gets in the way of listening to what God's Word is actually saying to us personally. And frankly, churchy talk is just kind of boring at times. So on Mike the Baptist, we're trying to simplify the message and put it into the same kinds of words we actually use every day, which we hope will help you make it easier to put those words into action to improve your own life today. As Mike the Baptist grows, so does the time it takes to put it all together. And as we transition into a full-time project, we have less time to try and make a living outside of these efforts. So if you like what we're up to and you think we should keep it up, we simply suggest you consider helping us do that by supporting us right now through our merchandise offerings at MikeTheBaptist.com. It really is that simple. We have to eat and pay electric bills just like everybody else. And for now, Our merchandise section at MikeTheBaptist.com is our sole source of financial support for the program. You'll find a good selection of tees and hoodies there in all kinds of sizes and colors, which we think you'll like. It really is that simple, and we do need your support. Thanks for being a part of this journey, and we all look forward to finding out even more of what's in that Bible through our simple and sometimes silly talks on Mike the Baptist.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Innie or Outie, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Innie or Outie. Here's Mike.
This time on Innie or Outie, we're going to do exactly what we do every time on Innie or Outie. Two of us are going to present something that is either in the Bible or out of the Bible. I'm pulling up an old hat trick from early on Innie or Outie before we exactly knew what we were doing, and throw you a little bit of a curveball, but not an incredibly. Anyway, HD and I are in control of this session. So, HD, why don't you go first, because you look eager.
I'm making sure I got all my documentation correct, because I know
Okay.
you guys are going to argue with me on this.
By the way, a couple of weeks ago, you brought up the ostrich thing.
Right?
Well, I taught my Sunday School Connect, whatever you call that gathering now at churches on Sunday mornings. But anyway, I taught a Sunday or two ago, and I thought, I'm gonna do a little Innie or Outie right here in my Sunday School group, Connect group. And I used your ostrich thing. And it's like, we struggled that day kind of figuring it out. It's like they all knew already. I'm going like, what? What did we miss?
I think the difference is, we're here in this pressure tank. It's kind of a pressure
It's
thing.
a pressure tank, yeah.
That they were more spread out. They had more people to talk. And that was also at 8:30 on a Sunday morning, where we're at 2 a.m.
Oh,
on
yeah.
a Saturday morning.
Exactly.
I mean, it just makes
Yeah,
a
if you
big
take all that in
difference. It
consideration,
just makes a big difference.
it's still fun.
I really don't want to think they're smarter than we are, but that could be too.
I don't know. I know most of them, so. All right, you're up.
Okay, so here's the phrase: live by the sword, die by the sword. Tick tock, tick tock.
Yes, the clock is running. So now, immediately comes to my mind when the dude's ear got cut off there. I know that's not real. That's not a real biblical way to say that, but so the Roman guy, he slashed his ear off, right?
It was one of the disciples.
Yeah,
sliced
Jesus
off the
picked
Roman.
it up
Yeah,
and
put it back on.
stuck it back on there. That's what came to my mind.
Yeah.
But that phrase may not be connected to that at all. But for some reason, all that kind of crossed, runways there in my.
Well, you are a professor now. Dr. Jackson did teach us in Connect class last week.
A good
So,
doctor. Did you learn anything?
I'm not sure what we talked about that day.
Ostriches.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Ostrich,
emus.
we started out with ostriches.
Yes, that's right. Yes, but I already knew that,
Okay.
so I didn't learn anything about that.
Yeah.
No, I did learn. That's good.
Neil?
That's where my mind went, was to that.
Okay.
Well, you were talking about being in the garden
Yes.
when they're driving
Yep.
Jesus. But I don't know that it says it that way. I'm not sure.
What was your phrase exactly? Live by the sword.
Die by the
Die
sword.
by the sword.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna say that we're gonna be an innie on this one.
Was it Jesus that said this?
Maybe it might be what you're thinking about right there,
Yeah.
but I'm not 100% positive. I'm leaning towards this.
But who else would have said that? I mean, Jesus is the one that would have had authority to tell you.
Well, God said it. If it's in the Bible, God said
Well,
it.
there's that.
Wow, he threw the God card at
Boy,
me.
he did. You got
Kind
no
of like
right.
it's kind of like
Nowhere
the
to
Connect
go.
class answer. Jesus.
Yeah.
But yeah, can I quote scripture? Nah. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm just kind of leaning
You
towards.
do?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, he got us with ostrich last time.
He did.
I'm like,
I'm
come
still
on.
floored by
I
that
didn't
one.
hear that one. I haven't heard it.
Yeah.
Oh,
you need to listen to Mike the
fascinating.
Baptist.
Would have been 2 weeks ago.
Sometime in the past. We need to dial up the Wayback Machine.
We slept since tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
I think any too. I'm a little scared to say any because the phrase sounds like
He's so excited.
the phrase
He's like,
sounds
"Oh, I
like
got you."
something you would just say in conversation.
He's so excited over there. He's happy he's got us.
Well, he ain't got us yet because I'm
He's stalling.
Non-committal.
He's trying to pull it out of you.
both of y'all said any.
I said any. I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
I'm going with them with an any.
The reason I was smiling is sometimes I come to these things, I'm like, I don't even know what the answer is.
Yeah, you've done that too.
I know, right? So, correct idea. Jesus says, put your sword back into its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. So the phrase, live by the sword, die by the sword, is not in the Bible.
The concept.
But the concept
Yeah, right.
of Jesus was basically saying, if you're going to be a person of anarchy and violence, then that's the way you're going to die.
I wonder who changed the phrase. I mean, there's a point in time where somebody does these phrases that says it the first time.
Right.
It's kind of like, we ain't fancy, but you ain't either. Somebody said that for the first time at some point in history, and now it lives on.
You
But
just trademarked it.
Yeah. Well, that was the first time in history it was said, I think. Anyway, I'm always fascinated to figure out who said that the first time. So
right.
somebody evidently in Western culture or something kind of shortened that so they could fit it on a T-shirt.
Right.
Okay, that was
good.
free.
So the reason I say that, I mean, it kind of is in there, but it's really, it
Can
was
we
not
find a
phrased.
translation that says live by
Right.
the sword, die by the sword?
Right. It wasn't necessarily.
Did you look at the
phrased
message?
that way.
Yeah.
Did you see?
That's
Okay.
it.
New Living might.
I'm grasping. I'm like,
Yeah.
I hate to be wrong.
Well, the message would have changed that. What's the thing they had in Star Wars?
Lightsaber?
Yeah, the message would have changed that to lightsaber.
Or I might have changed it to feather. I don't live by the feather.
So we were wrong. We were
We were wrong.
Wrongly right.
We conceptually correct.
Conceptually
Okay.
correct. Yeah, you had the right. I was proud of you. You knew exactly that Jesus had that conversation.
Okay.
And that is where the phrase comes from.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
I knew all that
A
was
parallel
connected or
to that.
felt connected.
yeah. To that.
Yeah.
We're disconnected if it's before Jesus healed him.
That would be totally disconnect. Well, I see what you did right there.
Thank you.
A little slow on that one. I have the power now.
Be gone, Baldy.
Be gone.
Don't you
Baldy.
always have the power
Oh,
here?
that was
Well,
last
in a
week.
way.
Okay.
It's been a while.
All right. So early on, when we were doing Innie or Outie, experimented a few times with things that were in the Bible, but a little bit of it was changed,
Yes.
which kind of was a whole different twist on. You had to kind of figure out. It was almost like what we did right there, sort of. I guess I'm not doing anything different then. Tell me if this is in the Bible or not. Is this an Innie or an Outie? It's 24/7
He's proud
in
of
here.
himself.
It's like the theater with 8 screens in this head all the time, and you just got to pick one to watch. But if you're bored, you can just go to the next
Are
one.
they in different theaters? Or
It's
can you just
totally
stay in one
different. No,
theater
it's all
and watch
different
eight?
rooms.
Different definitions too.
Yep. It's like a different
Some in
movie.
black and white.
I have noticed that today, that things are in black and white at times. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So you're getting in there too.
Yeah.
Buy some popcorn. Is this an Innie or an Outie? When a man has lost his hair and is bald, he is clean. If he has lost his hair from the front of his scalp and has a bald forehead, he is clean. Is that in the Bible or is that not in the Bible? I'll give you a hint. If it's in there,
It's
if it's in there, it's near sections of the Bible
Levitical.
that really
Like
talk about
Leviticus,
mildew.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the first part of that may be in there. I don't know about the front half being gone.
Let me give you the whole thing again so you can really study it. Because I want people, like we said, we want people when they're out in the public talking about things in the Bible, we want to get them right. So we wouldn't
This
want
is a hot
anybody out there
topic.
saying this in conversation all the time. When a man has lost his hair and is bald, he is clean. If he has lost his hair from the front of his scalp and has a bald forehead, he is clean. There you have it.
So is he doing one of these things that he just talked about, where he just switched up a little bit of it?
That's a good question.
To throw us off, or did he do that to throw us off?
Throw you off.
Sounds like the Department of Redundancy Department.
It does, especially the last half of that. It's like, well, yeah, if it's bald on the front, well, yeah, it is clean.
Because that'd be pretty hard to determine. I mean, a receding hairline, or
Yeah,
Well, you see those though.
yeah.
You know.
I thought it was armpit hair.
got a story on that too.
So is that implying it's unclean if you
If you
don't
have the hair?
If you have hair?
I actually kind of read some before and after in some of this, and it's worthy of a good read.
Yeah.
Part
I'm
of
just
it's in
gonna
there,
say.
obviously,
Yeah.
Yes.
but it's all of that in
I'll
there.
fess up that I'm not going to say some of it. It's either all of it or because that's the way I read it.
So all of that or none of that.
I'm gonna say out. I mean, I know that some of it's in there, but I don't think all of that. I don't think that whole phrase is in there that way.
Is Jackson getting clever enough though to put on a show? But he had his Bible out earlier and he was reading it
And
I'm like,
laughing.
is he doing that just for show to throw us off right now?
Was this even in there? Anything could happen.
Well, you had them boys yelling, "Get out of here, Baldy!"
Yep.
Well, that's a
So
great
maybe
planet.
Baldy was a bad thing.
That's a recurring theme for some reason.
Apparently, if you're bald, you're clean.
But the prophet would be clean, so that should be okay. But maybe they thought he was only partially bald.
Their head probably didn't shine in those days. They didn't have that wax that all
They
headed
didn't
guys
have the
use nowadays.
microfiber cloths to get up there and do a good job on it.
The soul shaming.
Yeah, you remember that?
Oh my God.
Good old
Soul shaming. Yeah. All right, we got to vote.
What's it going to be?
I'm saying out.
It's got to be the whole thing I'm saying out.
Peer pressure. I'm out.
Leviticus 13, verses 40 to 41. When a man has lost his hair and is bald, he is clean. If he has lost his hair from the front of his scalp and has a bad bald forehead, he is clean. It's all in there.
This is why peer pressure is bad.
Yeah,
Peer
so
pressure is bad.
it's actually a trick. But let me give you one piece of humorous information. I was actually in my Bible writing this word for word when I was writing it. And I guess it's not written this way, but in my head, I guess in order to make this an official scriptural writing, when I got to the part that said, if he has lost his hair, I put a T on the end of has. If he has lost his hair,
Oh yeah,
just King
King
James.
James.
I think it would be TH if he half lost.
half lost his hair, yeah. So, well, this
Maybe
is the
that's
way
the
Arkansas,
spirit.
if they,
Well,
if they did Arkansas.
I'm glad I could bring y'all down.
Well,
I'm
no,
just a double loser
in
today.
fairness,
Could-
it was a
could-
curveball.
Vince would have made the right decision if I hadn't just jumped in there and voted. But
Yeah,
that's all right.
if I had just read it and left you all and wasn't dropping odd hints back and forth to throw you off even more, I think you would have came out okay.
I'm tired.
I'm kind of thinking that Any or Outie is no longer America's almost favoritist game show.
Well, no, I think every time the preachers lose, it becomes an even more
Yeah,
favorite.
yeah.
It just makes me want to write my resume again.
Yeah.
Okay, enough of that. We're going to take a quick break, come back, sing a hymn, and bring this all back to reality before we move on to something else. Good round.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Any or Outie, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Any or Outie.
Earlier in the program, Brother Hodo mentioned the word woolly booger. Didn't you?
Either in this one or the other one. I don't remember.
I think that's green room.
It was?
I think that's in the green
So
room.
it hasn't been publicly brought up. But anyway, he mentioned the word woolly booger.
In here.
Okay.
It was here?
Yeah.
and it was an
It
old
was
word
sweet.
I was familiar with.
Yeah.
I grew up with it. Neil, I don't think had heard that
Mm-mm.
from Indiana.
Mm.
But anyway, it reminded us
There's a hymn.
there's a hymn that's very Some of them don't get used a lot in the Mike the Baptist hymnal for obvious reasons. I think the Woolly Booger, well, this is hard to explain, but this is why the Woolly Booger is not in the Mike the Baptist hymnal. That's just too odd.
Is that an innie or an outie?
Woolly Bully actually is in the Mike the Baptist hymnal, and we found it and dug it up in honor of HD's Woolly Booger comment. If you feel the need for more explanation than that, you're on the wrong program.
Go to church.
Go to church.
And come down front.
You can come down front first. You take care of that first. Anyway, we are going to, Neil was not familiar with Woolly Booger. He was familiar with Woolly Bully. And since he's an actual music person at a church, I'm going to ask him to lead this one because I don't feel qualified. I don't feel quite spiritual enough to lead Woolly Bully on the day's hymn. But you, my friend, seem more than spiritual enough to lead this.
Wow. Okay.
Lead us, Neil.
All right. All together now. Maddie told Hattie about the thing she saw. Had two big horns and a woolly jaw. Woolly bully. Woolly bully. Woolly bully. Woolly bully. Woolly bully. Woolly bully. Okay, second verse, everybody. Hattie told Maddie, let's don't take no chance. Let's not be L7. Come and learn to dance. Woolly bully. Woolly bully. Woolly bully. Woolly bully. Woolly bully. Watch it now. Watch it now. Watch it. Amen.
Yeah, hey, drive. Somewhere in the song.
There you go.
There you go. You're all churched up. Good for another week. We'll be back in another week too, Lord willing. And
Creek don't rise.
that's right. Exactly. If my creek rises on Honey Run, we're all in trouble. Y'all in trouble wherever you live. My creek rises that high. Anyway, hey, we're just Christians.
Trying not to cuss.
Yep. See you next time.